like we're
Feels like a parole hearing. Hang him!
The embarrassing thing is I'm not talking to the three gentlemen I know. Mr. Schooling, Mr. McCorkle. Well, first off, my name is Rodney. I'm from Garden Grove. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
I know these gentlemen. My question, this may be unfair, but I'm going to ask you to kind of get inside the Disney mind here.
His head is frozen.
If anybody could do that, we'd all still be working on stuff.
Yeah. Go on. Kim Possible was kind of a merch machine. I mean, there's still Kim Possible stuff I can go buy at the World of Disney and a bunch of other places. I mean, it was nonstop through the show and after and so on and so forth. Shortly after Kim Possible came out, along came American Dragon, Jake Long. Zip. Any idea what prompted that?
Well, I think they tried a lot. I think Disney Channel, Disney's a company, but Disney Channel in particular, had a real appetite for, let's find a property, an animated property that could drive a lot of merchandise sales. They thought, and we thought, Kim would be such a property. It was not. There was merchandise. There were party plates and dolls and things like that. It did okay. I mean, I would say the Kim Possible merchandise thing was best summed up. It was a Walmart exclusive.
I was going to say, our Walmart.
And Bob and I drove to a Walmart, which I'd never even been in before.
We're sorry.
So, no, we went in and we saw.
Were you wearing pajamas?
We saw the toys there, and we saw an employee socking going. And this is the soundbite we exactly heard. A character we created was finally made into a toy.
And we just saw it on a display. Mark said the stand.
Person's like putting up the dolls going, stupid. To leap ahead, so I think
We drove to Paramount City, or what, Panorama City.
I think American Dragon was another kind of show they thought could do that, a mixture of comedy and action. What happens with a company is when they develop a show like that, you'll pitch it to all different divisions of the company and licensing partners or whatever, and people have to get excited, and sometimes they just don't. I think what the show that finally hit for them in that area, I think, was Phineas and Ferb. Phineas and Ferb finally.
That Walmart employee is now in charge of greenlighting.
I do think one thing that's really changed since when we started the Disney Afternoon is the lack of a Michael Eisner. Because when I started at Disney, and Jim had already been doing this for a while, Michael personally chose every show. So when I was running series development at Disney, which is what I did until I developed Gargoyles and then moved over, every 6 months I'd go up in front of Michael with 5 or 6 shows, pitches, and he would kill most of them, which meant they're dead. But he'd pick 1 or 2 because he had
a vision.
Yeah, he'd pick 1 or 2, and what was great, and I don't think we appreciated it at the time, because what we'd see is he's killing 5 of our babies, kind of thing. But what we didn't realize at the time is he'd pick 1 show and he was Michael fucking Eisner, So if every division either got on board or got out of the way, and then as conflicts started up at Disney between Eisner and Katzenberg, and between Roy Disney and Eisner and stuff like that. Even before Michael left, he was accused of being a micromanager, and so he stopped choosing the shows, but he didn't choose one person to replace him. It became a committee who decided on which shows were going to go, and it's much, much harder to sell a committee on anything. Because all it takes is for one person on the committee to say no, and you can watch like wildfire around the table as everyone starts to doubt and wonder. They don't want to be the one guy who said yes to something that bombed. And it really creates this culture of fear that the moguls didn't have to worry about. If you were a mogul and Eisner was maybe one of the last of the moguls. If you said do it, everyone would just do it. And nowadays, everybody's got to agree, and then even when they all agree, you'll see 4 or 5 divisions sort of go, yeah, well, we were never that big on that. And so there's a lot of talk at these giant companies about synergy, but a lot of time it is just talk. And it gets very disappointing when you're working your butt off on a show, doing these crazy hours, and then you see that show's not being marketed, or it's not being licensed across the board and this kind of thing, and you don't necessarily see all the support. And that's what I really feel changed when Michael sort of stepped away and then ultimately left the company. And even a guy like Iger, who runs it now, he doesn't pick those shows. He's way above doing that. It doesn't even probably occur to him to be the guy to do it. But Eisner used to personally choose which shows were going to go. I mean, he even told you to go make Gummy Bears, didn't he? I mean, when there was no show yet, it was just go make Gummy Bears, and...
But you have to explain why.
Yeah, tell the Gummy Bears. This is fantastic.
What's the story of Gummy Bears?
Well, when a man and a woman love each other. Eisner had literally just taken over the company a week or so. And we went to his house on a Sunday morning in Beverly Hills, and and he's taking numbers for the movie Country with Jessica Lange. Because it had just opened. He wanted to know how the movie was doing, even though he had nothing to do with it. He'd just taken over the company. So he sits down on the couch. His kids are in the kitchen watching TV and eating cereal in their pajamas. I mean, it was crazy. And he says, my kids just got back from camp, and they were talking about some candy they really like called Gummy Bears. And he looks at me. He doesn't know me from Adam, and he says, make me a show called Gummy Bears. and I'm thinking, we all went down to this coffee shop, and we said, is he insane? I said, we have a show where the main characters get eaten every week?
Maybe a show called Snickers.
Now, did Disney have to buy Gummy Bears?
No, they
made it buy the candy?
No. Gummy bears means rubber bears. It's like saying jelly beans, okay?
Oh, okay.
So it's a generic candy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but if Gummy Bears didn't exist, Gargoyles wouldn't exist, because one of the things that when we were developing shows is I love Gummy Bears, not the candy. I don't actually like the candy, but I love the show. And one of the things I loved that Jim developed was this great, rich backstory, this medieval backstory, and we just felt that the show didn't get enough respect, and we blamed Care Bears for that. We thought that there was a lot of confusion between Care Bears and Gummy Bears.
I love it.
Because they were both multicolored bears, and one was saccharine sweet, and one was named after a candy, so it was easy to mix them up. And so we set out very consciously on Gargoyles to develop a show that would have that kind of rich medieval backstory to it, but that would get a little more respect. So we set it in the present, we made them gargoyles, which were a little edgier, we wanted that, and we developed this comedy series, this comedy adventure series called Gargoyles, with a bunch of cute little multicolored gargoyles, very much in the Gummy Bear vein.
Maybe that's the one Disney's making right now.
I don't know. And we pitched that to Eisner, and he passed. He didn't like it, but we thought there was something in the show. And so I showed the pitch to Tad Stones, who was the creator of Darkwing Duck. And Tad said, well, they're developing this movie, you may have heard of it, Beauty and the Beast. And he said, what if you had one gargoyle who was sort of like the big, heroic gargoyle? Because we had a human female character who was the Gummy Bear's friend. I'm sorry, the gargoyle's friend. What if you did a sort of love story thing? And that sort of triggered something in me, and so we created this character Goliath, who had not existed in the comedy development. And we took all the rest of the show and put it through this sort of prism of Goliath. And and came out with the action show at the other end. We got very enthusiastic about it. We did this huge pitch, and in those days, pitches were like art cards. You had like 40 art cards, and you had this spiel which you memorized, but presented as if it were completely ad-libbed. And like I said, I had to do 4 or 5 of these pitches, or 6 or 8 of these pitches every 6 months. So I had a lot to memorize. I think I did one for Quarks where they actually pulled Michael Eisner's toupee off partway through the pitch. That didn't go over so well. But so we pitched Gargoyles again, this like 40-card pitch for Gargoyles is this dramatic action show, and he passed again. And so we thought we were dead, because he passed as a comedy, he passed as an action drama, and so Jeffrey Katzenberg, and we had this sort of post-mortem meeting afterwards, and we talked about what he had bought, which I think was Goof Troop, but I can't remember.
I love that show.
I just don't remember. I know he bought Goof Troop. I don't remember if it was that meeting or not. But Jeffrey said, as we were standing up to leave, Jeffrey said, "Oh, and you're going to work on Gargoyles more." And I was like, "No, he killed it." And and he was like, and Jeffrey was like, "Oh no, he didn't kill it. He just thought it needed more work." Now I've been in a lot of these meetings by that point. I knew a kill when I had felt it through my heart, But what that said to me is that Michael hadn't liked the show, but Jeffrey had liked the show. And in those days, Jeffrey wouldn't contradict Michael openly. But he wanted us to work on it. So we went back to the drawing board a third time and decided we didn't want to change the show at all. So what we changed was the pitch. We focused the pitch on the Beauty and the Beast relationship between Goliath and Elisa. We cut a lot of stuff that wound up coming back into the show, things like the Pack and Savarius and the Mutates and all that stuff. We did end up putting in the show, but all that had been in the pitch, but it was distracting Michael. It was getting in the way, and so we made it about this relationship between the gargoyle and the cop. And we went in again, and it was the same pitch, only a lot shorter and more focused. And we hadn't added anything. We just cut, and reordered a few things. And on the third try, so it took us a year and a half, on the third try, he bought the show. And when the meeting was over, Jeffrey turned to me and he said, "You added a lot to that, didn't you?" And I said, "Yes, I did."
I just want to say real quickly, when he talks about getting the show killed and you sense it, I actually we went back, I think, 3 times with a show called The Beat Players. And at one point, Jeffrey Katzenberg looked at me and said, "If you say Beat Players to me one more time, I'm going to throw you out that window." That's when it's dead.
Threat of defenestration, always so.
Yeah.
But Beat Players evolved into Tailspin.
Yeah.
So, you never know. There we ripped for a while.